Okay, this is the first prototype for my mini tracker. This has a full enclosure along with the PCB. This is just on standoffs for right now, but hopefully I can get like a DFM version of it. Basically, yeah. And so what the mini tracker is it's basically a handheld hardware tracker. Now that's kind of difficult to explain, but what it basically is, it's just like a sampling sequencer, but instead of sequencing from left to right, it sequences top down. So here's just a little template project or example project that I made to give you an idea of the sounds and tracks that are possible on this thing. So just like that. But I think the easiest way to demo this is to just start from scratch. So the way this works is you basically load samples onto a micro SD card down here, you pop that into the mini tracker, and then that loads all those samples into this screen here. From here, you can load samples into what's known as SDRAM, which is one of the memory sections on the DAISY seed. You can actually see it, it's right there. So it'll load samples into there. So for example, I could load this breakbeat. So that'll show up over here. This is your sample editor. So that's where you can sample it. And so one of the big features of this is that it supports slicing, right? So to slice, you're just gonna press A. So that's gonna slice. So now you can hear, that's just the kick. This next slice is gonna be the snare. I'm gonna cut off just gonna slice that in a way that makes sense. Whenever you press A, what it basically does is it puts a slice halfway between the current slice and the next slice, or the end of the sample. So that's just kind of how that works. And then once you've sliced up that sample, you can go ahead and come back to the sequencing screen where you can sequence it, right? So the way the sequencing works is twofold, right? Or threefold, actually. So this first box right here determines the instrument that you're playing, the index of it, right? So you'll see here that sample has index 0. If I were to load another sample, say, I don't know, just some random kick drum, you'll see that that kick has index 1, right? So to play those different instruments, you're just gonna change that little number there, right? So instrument 0 corresponds to our little breakbeat, and then to play different slices, you just change the note, right? So C4 is gonna be the first slice, that'll be the second slice, the third slice, etc., 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 right? So let me just make a quick little pattern. Oops. Just like that. So that's just gonna sound like this. You may also notice that this sequencer has an extra little lane over here. So that third column is going to be what's known as step effects, right? So what step effects do allow you to basically modify that specific step in specific ways and none of the other ones, right? So currently there's only 4 step effects. Right now it's on 1, which is just doing nothing. Your other option is to have it repeat. That's going to be that little R letter there. So the way the repeat works is each of these 16th notes is divided into 16 ticks. And so this is setting the modulus amount of that tick, right? So here, this is going to play it at 32nd notes. This will play it at 64th notes. If you do some value in between 0 and 1, obviously this is hex based, right? So if you do some value between that, it'll get you some different repeat amount, right? But say I just wanted this to play at 32nd notes, right? You can hear that that kind of has like a little flam thing. If I wanted to do like a held roll, you can kind of hear that that right there is on 30-second notes. Your other option is this U number here, or this U letter here. And so what this is gonna do is it's going to pitch this sample up by a specific amount of semitones. That number of semitones is determined here, right? So as you noticed earlier, this thing is hex-based, meaning that there are 16 numbers per like big number here. It's just, I don't know, hex numbers, right? So the way the pitch works is each semitone is divided into 16 steps, or like microtones, I guess, right? So every one here, or every 16, it goes up one semitone, right? So if I wanted to put it up an entire octave, this would be C, right? Because A is 10, B is 11, C is 12. Just like that. So now you should hear, this should be double the pitch. Just like that. Your other option is to put it down an octave, right? So here, using D, that does the same thing as U, except it pitches it down instead of up, which sounds like this. That step is being weird. Sorry, there's still some bugs, but yeah, it's fine. So those are the current step effects. Now, in terms of what I'm gonna add into the future, it's going to have to deal with the effects. But we'll get to that. Actually, we'll get to that now. So the other screens that are available on this is, for over here, you'll notice that in the sequencer, there are 4 lanes. The lane is told to you right here, right? So this is the 4th lane, the 3rd lane, the 2nd lane, and the 1st lane, right? So you can have as many samples as you want, well, as many samples as memory allows, but you can only ever play 4 instruments at a time. This is kind of just a classic limitation of the tracker. So you can think of it as a creative limitation. It could be a hardware, it can be whatever you want it to be. So here, for each lane, you have 3 different effect slots, right? And these effects are per lane as opposed to per instrument. This does change the way like sound designing works, especially if you're used to that kind of stuff, because obviously this is all just sample based. So not a great tool for sound designing, mostly for sequencing. Here you have, currently there are 5 effects, right? We have a little filter, which has a whole bunch of different filter types. You have a distortion, which is just a straight up gain and clipper. You have a compression here, a little auto pan, and redux. I call this redux because I use Ableton, but this works essentially the same way, right? You have a bit depth reducer and a bit crusher, right? So I guess we can hear what all those sound like. As you reduce the bits, this is going to get really distorted. Feel that up here. Unfortunately, this speaker right here is mono, so you're not really going to hear the auto pan. All you hear is the left signal, but you can hear it's ducking kind of in and out at that frequency. And this obviously has different like little shapes you can use. Different phase relations. You can change the amount that it's ducking and the rate at which it's doing so. Here, this will be probably the most noticeable effect, or I mean, aside from the redux, right? So you can set a little ratio here. This is the effect I find myself using most often, just because compression drums, you know. As you can hear, that's pretty compressed. Compressor, and then filter, just like that. So those are your 5 effects that we have so far. I'll be adding more as software updates come along. And you have 3 slots, right? So here you're allowed 3 effects per lane, and then you have an effects unit or effects multi-effects thing for each lane, just like that. The last thing is just going to be sample, saving, loading, and just like basic effects, right? So this is just the output volume. This is the speed of your project, and you can also save and load projects, right? So if I wanted to save this, I would hit save as. This opens up a little keyboard. We can just name it whatever, and then you press OK, and that'll save it as a .mcrk, which is just the minitracker file name that I made up, honestly. Right, and then we can go here and we can load it, right? So say this is that other project that I had before. Oh, it died. There are still bugs. It still dies occasionally. But I could load this project. And so these projects are just saved onto the SD card. So if you look, right, so this is that project I was showing you earlier. Ignore that. And if I wanted to load that project we were just playing with, it's right here. And it didn't load that sample correctly. There's still some bugs to be worked out, but you can see all those steps and all those step effects saved. It saved which instruments were loaded, as well as, oh, you know what? I see the problem. I forgot to mention that here in your instrument screen, you also have some more options. You have options for the pitch, which is just its pitch. You have the gain of the sample, and then you also have ADSR control, so attack, decay, sustain, release. I'm just gonna set this to be like a normal amount. And then to access that, you're just gonna hit shift and play. There we go. Sometimes things don't load in correctly, but that's still something that I'm working out. So that is that. That is basically the whole project. And so this, I mean, even just with those simple features, you can go pretty damn far with this. Like this is literally just with 3 instruments, and we have like many possibilities, right? Oh, also, sorry, Jesus, I'm jumping all over the place, I'm realizing. Some things I forgot to mention on the sequencer screen is here, you have options to change patterns, right? So currently, I haven't tested the limits of this, so I don't know how many patterns this could theoretically store, but basically, if you hold down shift and use the arrow keys here, this allows you to move between patterns, right? So obviously here you can see that's pattern 0, here's pattern 1. If I wanted to add another one, I go down to that blank space, then we move the left or right keys to change which pattern it's looking at, right? So this could be pattern 1, and this saves it as those patterns, right? Or I could create a new pattern by just going here, right? So now that is a new pattern, new blank pattern with nothing in it, meaning I could do that however I wanted. And then if you want to delete that again, you're just gonna go all the way to the left. You can add it before or after. You can change these ones here as well, just like that. And then if you wanted to play, so if you just hit play normally, that's just gonna play and loop through that one pattern. If you wanted to play through the entire song, you're gonna hold shift, press play. Then at the end of this, it's gonna move to the next one. You'll see that right now. Yeah, and so basically with all those simple features, you could theoretically just like make a whole song, which is something that I'm in the process of doing to load as like a little demo project if this ever becomes something. So yeah, thank you for listening to me ramble about this garbage. Yeah, and have a good day.